Hello everyone! Welcome to the third and final part of my journey and my studies of learning digital painting as an animator. If you didn't see the previous two videos, I will make sure to link them in this video and the description so you guys can see what we've been doing to get to this point. To summarize, I've been practicing digital painting in the programs Rebelle 7 and Krita, and throughout this entire process, I've been learning how to work with different paints in a digital setting, and it's been a struggle as someone who hasn't done this at all really. I haven't really done much real physical painting in my life, so transitioning over to digital painting was certainly a difficult task, but I think we've been showing steady improvement going from part 1 to part 2, and hopefully we'll be making more improvements here in part 3. I did mention in part 1, and I believe also part 2, that this final video will actually be tackling watercolor painting, since the first two I pretty much focused on oils and acrylics, so this time I wanted to try out watercolor, especially since Escape Motions is still having its 30% off sale right now. It will be ending very soon at the end of this month of April, so I'll be linking in the description a link to Escape Motion's website so you can check out Rebelle 7 and any of their other products if you'd like. But let's get into this final video now. So the first thing I'm going to do this time around is create a sketch for my painting, and Rebelle 7 does have different pencil tools that you can use to create sketches for your work before you get to painting, just so you can have a frame of reference, so that's very nice to see. So this is a different change of pace for me, and I do think it helped out more. However, as you are going to soon see, even though I had this sketch frame of reference to help me out, there were some other areas where I struggled, the main one being working with the watercolor itself. So Rebelle 7's watercolor tools are very similar to real life in that if you're putting down wet paint, it's going to spread, it's going to smear, and as you can see on screen right now with the blue paint, it's smearing in the area that it's in, so it's not staying exactly where I want it to. The water is flowing and pulling the paint to different areas where I don't exactly want it. So this test where you see me working on right now, I'm going to delete it very soon and start over, because the paint just wasn't working how I wanted it to. It was smearing and spreading everywhere, and I wasn't getting the shapes I wanted, so you can see just now that I did delete that test. Thankfully, Rebelle 7 does have tools to lessen the amount of water in the paint itself for the watercolor tools. You can see it on the side, and I'll try to put a little indicator to show where it is, where you can lower or raise the actual water level and the amount of water you're using with your paints to change how it affects your actual motions, to change how much the water and the paint will spread out versus how close and neat it can stay together. Like you can see me putting little dabs of paint, and in some cases I'm putting so much paint that everything is just spreading out further than where I want it to be. So all those are things you need to keep in mind, and so I'm very glad I did this watercolor test so I could actually see how these tools work in Rebelle 7 and how they are very close to reflecting real life. So you're going to see me continue working on this, and this is not going to be my final attempt. I'm actually going to be doing 3 attempts, so this is the second one. And I'm not going to lie, I actually did think this attempt turned out pretty good for me, for my standards as someone who is not a painter and who definitely doesn't do that much watercolor. I think this turned out pretty well. The only issue is that, as you can see now, my colors are getting very, very muddy because I'm still using a lot of water. You're going to see me go in and lower the amount of water again for my final test. But for right now, I was so close to getting the basic shapes in there, I decided to just finish up with this and just put all the basic shapes in there and all the colors, and I would use that as a final reference in the end, kind of like a second sketch. So overall, like I said, I do think things were looking okay. Like I said, for my standards, for an actual professional watercolor painter, of course this doesn't look all too good. But for me, who doesn't really do too much painting, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually pleased with it. So you can see me right now lowering the opacity again of that layer, and I'm going to try one last final attempt with some different brushes, along with, again, lowering the water pressure level again, because again, like I said, the biggest issue that you could probably see is that the water was just so intense that it was becoming extremely muddy and colors were blending with each other, and again, I was using just too much paint. You're going to see me now using a much smaller brush size, which definitely helped me out. I'm not sure why I didn't do this from the start. I guess, and again, in my mind, I was thinking of just focusing on just generic shapes that I wasn't really thinking about getting them on the page that you could see them clearly. You can see right now I'm working on that little purple path in the ground, and then a little purplish bush on the side, and then a yellowish bush on the other side. And I'm using much thinner brushes so that you can actually see me shaping them the way they can be actually formatted to look realistic. And like there's actual perspective, there's actual depth, there's actual blending with the colors, and it doesn't just look like random shapes and we have no idea what they are. I will try to put little indicators on screen of what I'm actually supposed to be painting. Like the purple on the ground is the road, the purple on the side is a dark colored bush, the yellow on the right side is another bush, is like a yellowish greenish bush of leaves, whereas in the back I'm painting those green mountains in the background, and the blue behind that is also mountains, whereas the green is a little bush on the side. So again, it's very, very, very abstract. I'm not going to blame you at all if you have no idea what you're looking at. I'm just trying to clarify what I was actually working on. The tool you just saw me use was a drying tool. There are options in Rebelle 7 also when you're working with watercolors to dry your canvas in addition to being able to wet the canvas. So again, very powerful program that I definitely enjoy. You're seeing me put a few additions here and there to just add some more details to these bushes to make them look a bit more like bushes. Again, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't recognize that they were actual bushes, but I'm just trying to use similar colors that were used in the original video. I probably could have used different colors to differentiate what I was actually working on, but again, I will still say that for me, I think that this came out pretty well in the grand scheme of things for someone who doesn't do too much painting in general, especially with watercolors. To me, it looks very much like the road at least has some depth, like the bush has some depth, that it's going further back into the scene and it's not just flat. So overall, I was very happy with this, but since I know that this is probably going to be very hard to see for someone who isn't used to my particular painting style, I did take this painting and I actually put it into Krita and used some actual drawing and environment tools to make it look a bit more realistic. So I'm going to be finishing up with this watercolor now, and I'll show you what I did in the end. So here is the final watercolor painting. Like I said, I know it's not the best, but for me and for my standards, I was actually happy with how this turned out. I thought it would be much worse, and if you remember the first two attempts that I made, they were completely awful. I think here at least I'm having some actual form and depth here, but like I said, I can completely understand if you have no idea what you're looking at. So I present to you, ta-da! This is what I did in Krita. I essentially just took the painting you just saw and painted over it. The dimensions were a bit different, so that's why the picture looks a bit smaller than the previous one. But essentially what I did was I took the painting you just saw, lowered the opacity, and just painted over it with some more natural colors, some more natural textures from some special brushes that I have available to me in Krita. And of course, I think this makes it look much clearer to what I was actually attempting to paint. The mountains look clearly like mountains, the bushes look like bushes, and I even added some flowers as well. I added some texture to the path on the ground, and I tried to use the similar purple color for the path on the ground just to make it closely related to the original version. So overall, I do think that I was able to have some success with this. I think it came out really well. I believe I just left the sky the same as it was. I don't think I added any different details with the special brushes in Krita. But overall, I think it turned out well, and I didn't change anything from the original painting to this one. The only change is that the canvas size is a bit smaller, but I kept the same perspective, the same sizes for everything. So overall, because I was able to create a clear image here with some different tools, I think the watercolor practice came out pretty well. So thank you all so much for watching this 3-part series. I know this video is a bit shorter than the previous two, but overall I think this painting medium was a bit simpler than the other two, and because I had done so many trainings before, I think I was able to get the hang of what I needed to change, changing brush sizes, changing different tools, adding less water for the watercolor paints itself. And so I think in doing all of those prior videos and those prior painting attempts and studies, I was able to much more quickly adapt this time around. And I even had the extra time to take my watercolor and to be able to create this new version in Krita. So I think this ended up being a great conclusion to this 3-part series, since I was able to take my knowledge from Rebelle and to take my knowledge from Krita and to put them together into this final product and this beautiful painting for you guys. So thank you all so much for watching this 3-part series. Once again, Escape Motion's spring sale, where you will be getting a 30% discount on all of their products, will be ending at the end of April, so definitely check it out if you want to now. Head over to their website. I will include a link in the description. If you want to check out Rebelle 7, now is the best time to get it because you will be getting a nice discount. Not to mention for any of the other products Escape Motion offers. Thank you guys so much for watching this series, and we'll be having some more fun videos coming out very soon. Thank you!